that's why, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't talked about loudly. But what was being, if you like, played down, and Brandon Carter produced this thing in 1973, was the fact that these constants constantly keep cropping up, and these coincidences that things just seem to happen and just seem to be so right to allow for life. Now, Paul Davies is talking there about two principles. Now, anthropic principle means man-centered principle, and principle just means the first taker. So the first taker in the universe seems to be this man-shaped thing. In other words, the universe seems to be moving towards, not man, it's a bad term, but life, and intelligent life. The weak anthropic principle means, well, we're the only observers in the universe. When we look back on it, it's bound to look rigged for life because we're looking back on it and we're alive. So all those things are necessarily the things that happened, you know. So that it's one of those things that it looks extremely unwieldy, but it has to be true if you look back on it. It's like saying every one of your ancestors was a sexually successful reproducer. Every one of them managed to have children, right the way back to the amoebas that crawled out of the swamp. Every one of your ancestors managed to be a very good sexual partner. It's just one of those things.
So, like, of all the things that could have happened.
That's right. When you look back at it, it says it can't be true. One of them must have actually, you know, got killed before they reached puberty, but no, it couldn't have happened.
I've heard the argument also that all our ancestors were successful murderers. Because there was a time that if one person walked down the lane, three came the opposite way, you probably wouldn't finish your journey.
Well, that's right. Kill him off.
And all the weak had gone to the wall, and all the successful...
Yeah. Well, that's a good philosophical point. But the other one is biologically necessary, and it doesn't. It's not a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, that was sort of like a weak principle, like all our ancestors were murdering sexually reproducing.
Yeah, they were murdering after they'd been. Yeah, just to make room, because they were so successful. But it's one of those things which it looks like it has to, you know, it can't possibly be true, but necessarily it is. And so it's the same sort of thing. The weak anthropic principle says because we're conscious and we're looking back, our universe must be designed to have life occur in it, because it's here. It's us looking back. But he then goes on to go from that, but then there's a strong case as well that all these accidental things seem to point to the fact that consciousness is necessary in life. Now, you have to take account the instances which are in the book, and this is the book that he recommends. This is Barrow and Tipler. It's well worth getting the book. Look how thick it is, and it's stuffed with mathematics. And it's stuffed with examples. I mean, there are at least 40 examples of things that didn't ought to happen the way they did. And we're talking here about things literally seconds after the Big Bang. If gravity had been slightly bigger, nothing would have happened at all. If some of these parameters had been within 1 or 2% of each other, life could never have possibly evolved.
It was infinitesimally small differences.
That's right.
Possibilities.
At vast temperatures, and when this thing is expanding at ridiculous speeds. One of the things that comes from this is the fact that, for instance, they know mathematically that level of intelligence like ours couldn't exist in a universe which is much younger than 13 billion years. Because it's only at 13 billion years that it's big enough to have the space in it for solar systems like ours to be calm enough for life to exist. When I say the mathematics is that sophisticated, they're getting to that point. They're already way ahead at that point. They're beyond that now. But they actually say that the time scale of the universe, right down to the milliseconds from the Big Bang, are established so that they can actually confidently prove that mathematically, that the universe, the way that we inhabited it, and I think it's 3.5 billion years that life has been on this planet, would not have been able to maintain that because the universe wasn't big enough before that. You know, it's expanding, the whole universe is expanding at a colossal rate, that there wouldn't have been the space and the time and the distance inside of it for human beings to have evolved, because the planets were too turbulent and the solar system was too turbulent. So that in itself is quite unique. But can we have the tape? No, sorry, just before you hit that button, what you've got is Melvin Bragg, you've got these, there are three physicists there, a girl who you're going to hear speaking at one point, and then Bernard Carr explaining the anthropic principle. And he's a scientist talking about it, and I think you can hear that he doesn't like to be saying this, but that's just me. Now, if the universe, the response which they're going to give you is that, okay, this universe does look extremely rigged for life, and there are lots and lots of mathematical things that didn't ought to happen, and because they've happened, it does look like as if there's some sort of guiding intelligence. But it would look like that because we're already in it, so it has to support life. So the randomness now comes in by them saying, so maybe there isn't just one universe, there's lots of universes, thousands, maybe millions and millions of universes, and this is just the only one with living creatures in, is what they're going to say. The multiverse gets around the fact that we are a unique, special, and all these happy accidents, if you like, the Goldilocks enigma, that the universe is not too hot, not too cold, but just right.
So you get past the idea that there's an intelligence behind it by going, there's billions and billions of them and one of them had to be.
And one of them's got life in.
Yeah, but that's just the way it is.
It's a fluke.
Yeah.
It is literally just a fluke.
Right.
This really sounds cooked up, because you can't bear to let go of the idea of randomness and
Well,
the
you can
cosmic
say that,
scope.
but I would never. It did, and it did at the time. And the fact that they'd only introduced this principle because they now had a way around it. But their solution is that there are millions of universes. And even at the time that they first said it, I immediately thought, well, so that means there's millions of universes with no intelligent life
How do
in
we
them.
know that, though?
You
How
can
do
never
we
know
don't
that.
know that.
That's right.
Well, by the
So-
same principle, actually.
Well-
using the math.
Using the maths, you can, yeah.
Yeah.
You can say that it's possible, but they'll never. And the other thing about it,
Just be careful.
because-
If you're going to accept a cosmological constant, you have to accept
Yeah.
that the math can do other things. You can't just go, well, I like this one, and it
Yeah.
proves as a god, but I don't like all that other maths.
Right.
It says it isn't. You can't.
But what you can say, and what they do say, is that, I mean, because the universe is expanding so fast, and it's expanding at the speed of light, which means not only do we not know what's outside the universe, it's expanding at the speed of light, and nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, so we can never know what's outside the universe if it keeps on going at that rate. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I mean, that thing has been proven by experiments in the sense that there's a microwave red shift which is happening, and they know that that's sort of proven what seems to be the fact.
I have read that these red shifts have been argued against. They say they seem to go the opposite way.
Well, they've got ripples in them, yeah.
Got ripples in them,
Yeah.
It almost reminds like the pebble in the
Yeah.
pond.
But they explain those as well as creative formulations and things like black hole. But let's listen to the cosmologists themselves. And Melvin Bragg standing up for humanity right in the middle of this. It's quite good.